I want you to do something for me. Just for a second, imagine you're a chief operating officer at a big pharma company.
Okay.
It's been a wild year. You've just signed off on millions, maybe tens of millions of dollars for the latest AI programs. You've got all the right buzzwords in your reports, pilots running everywhere, and the board, and they're thrilled you're innovating.
It feels good. Yeah, you feel like you're on the bleeding edge of things.
Exactly. You feel like you're winning. But then you sit down, you pull up the consolidated industry data for this year, 2026, and you see a number that just makes your blood run cold.
85%.
85%. And that's the number we are really grappling with today. It's the percentage of these big AI projects in manufacturing that just fail to scale. They don't just get delayed, they die.
They die. And there's a term for it, the industry calls it pilot purgatory. And frankly, it is one of the most expensive problems in business right now. We're not talking about a few $1,000s on a software license.
Right.
We are talking about billions of dollars collectively spent on these experiments that, yeah, they generate some learnings, maybe a nice PowerPoint slide.
Right, for the next town hall.
Exactly. But they generate zero scaled business value.
Zero. That is a terrifying return on investment. And that's what we're unpacking in this deep dive. We've got a huge stack of research here, mostly from a report called From Pilots to Performance, which is basically a survival guide for leaders who are just tired of burning cash.
And the stakes are, they're so much bigger than just the money.
It feels bigger than that.
Oh, it's about competitive survival. The data shows that the companies that do escape this purgatory, the very rare few who figure it out, are seeing results that are almost hard to believe, like a 10% improvement in OEE.
Which in manufacturing is just huge.
It's massive. And it gets better. They're seeing a 50% reduction in unplanned downtime.
Wow.
And in some cases, doubling their production volume in under 3 years.
Doubling production in pharma. To do that, you normally have to build a whole new factory. That's, 5 years and $1 billion?
Exactly. So if you can get that kind of boost just from software and better processes, you in the market, period. And if you're stuck in purgatory, you're just lighting money on fire while your competitors are pulling ahead.
So our mission today is clear. We're not just here to talk about the failure rate. We need to break down the actual playbook. How do you do this? Why are pilots dying? And how do you join that elite group that escapes?
Right. It's about moving from a science project to a real business engine.
Let's start with the autopsy then. Why are so many of these projects failing? The report uses this image of an attrition funnel, and it looks brutal.
It really is a funnel of despair. So, okay, imagine you start with 100 different AI pilot ideas.
100.
You're throwing everything at the wall. And the analysis shows that about 75 of those will prove they're technically feasible. The algorithm works.
So pause there. 3/4 work technically. That actually sounds pretty good for R&D.
It is. But working technically just means the code runs. Out of those 75, only about 40 actually have a solid business case.
Meaning they solve a problem that's actually worth solving.
Exactly. You can use AI to count pens in the supply closet, but you probably shouldn't. So we're down to 40, then maybe 25 get approved for a scale-up. But here's the kicker.
Yeah.
Out of that original 100, only about 18 actually make it into production.
From 100 down to 18. That's an 82% failure rate. And the craziest thing to me is that the report says the failure is almost never the technology.
Precisely. It's rarely a technical failure. It's organizational, it's operational. And there are 3 big traps companies fall into. The first one is something they call AI washing.
AI washing, that sounds like greenwashing.
Very similar idea. It's the mistake of confusing the fun, consumer-grade AI, like the chatbots we all use, with industrial-grade, GXP-compliant AI.
Right. If I ask a chatbot for a history essay and it gets a date wrong, that's one thing.
Annoying, but not life-threatening. If an AI hallucinates a fact about a drug batch record or a sterilization temperature, people could die. The stakes are infinitely higher. You can't just throw consumer tools at a life-saving process and hope for the best.
Which brings us to the second trap, and this one feels like the most common headache in business. The data quality chasm.
It is the classic lab versus reality problem. In a pilot, you're in a controlled environment. You scrub the data until it's perfect. It's pristine.
Perfect data for a perfect model.
Right. But then you try to move that model to the actual factory floor. And what does the factory floor look like? It's a swamp. It's chaos.
Describe the swamp.
Well, you have handwritten notes in logbooks. You have 150 different sensors on one machine that don't talk to each other. Some are from 1990. So this delicate AI model The moment you drop it into the messy, noisy real world, it just collapses.
It's like training for a marathon on a treadmill in an air-conditioned gym and then trying to run the race through a mud pit in a thunderstorm.
That's the perfect analogy. And the third trap is validation as an afterthought,
The old build it first, figure out the rules later mindset.
which works fine in Silicon Valley, move fast and break things. But in pharma, you literally cannot break things. We have GXP regulations. If a system isn't validated in the eyes of the FDA, it doesn't exist. You can't use it.
So they build this cool tech, get all excited, and then realize they never built the paper trail to prove it works safely.
Correct. They try to retrofit compliance at the end. But validation has to be baked in for the first line of code. If you try to add it later, the project just dies.
Okay, so that's the groom, the funnel of failure. But let's flip this. You said the winners, that tiny fraction, are seeing massive returns. If we fix the plumbing, what's the prize?
The report calls them the big 7 use cases. And the heavy hitter, the one worth a projected $25 billion a year by 2030, is job shop scheduling.
I have to be honest, job shop scheduling sounds so mundane. For the top spot, why is that worth $25 billion?
It sounds boring until you realize how complex a pharma plant is. It's a nightmare. You have regulatory rules, like you can't make drug A after drug B without a 48-hour deep clean.
Okay, that's already complicated.
Now add in that the cleaning crew is only on second shift, and the raw materials for drug C are late, and the machine for drug A is due for maintenance.
And humans are figuring this out now.
Humans are doing it with heuristics. Best guesses, rules of thumb. But an AI can look at millions of possibilities in a second. It finds patterns we can't see. It optimizes the whole sequence to squeeze out 10% more capacity from the exact same factory.
Okay, I take it back. Free capacity is not boring. What's number 2?
Predictive maintenance. That's worth about $10 billion.
So this is the whole fix it before it breaks idea.
Exactly, but on an industrial scale. There's a great example from a facility in Mulund, India. They implemented this and got a 50% reduction in unplanned downtime.
Which is catastrophic, right? Unplanned downtime.
It's the worst. A pump fails mid-batch. You might have to throw out a multi-million-dollar batch of drugs, re-sterilize the whole line. It's a disaster.
So how does the AI stop that?
It listens, literally, to vibration, acoustics, temperature. It hears that a bearing is vibrating just a tiny bit differently weeks before it actually breaks. It tells you, hey, fix this next Tuesday during the scheduled break.
You avoid
This crisis completely.
That feels like a superpower. And then there's the digital twin. This one always sounds a bit like sci-fi.
It is a little sci-fi. It's a virtual replica of the factory. But the goal isn't just to look cool. It's to find the golden batch.
The golden batch.
The perfect recipe. The absolute perfect combination of temperature, pressure, timing that gives you the maximum yield with minimum waste. You can't really experiment on live drugs, but in the digital twin, the AI can simulate thousands of batches to find that perfect recipe. That's another $7 billion opportunity right there.
And the list goes on, but all of these cool tools, they rely on that one thing we talked about.
The unsexy truth.
The unsexy truth. The report says, and I'm quoting, data architecture determines destiny.
It's heavy because it's true. It is the #1 reason companies fail. You cannot have fancy algorithms if your infrastructure is broken. We talked about the silos, the alphabet soup of systems, MES, LIMS, ERP.
Right. None of them speak the same language.
So the solution, and this is the whole part, is you have to invest in an integrated data platform. You need a single source of truth, and it has to be standards-based, like ISA 95, which is the blueprint for connecting the business systems to the factory floor sensors.
There's another term here I think is key, context engineering. Everyone's talking about prompt engineering, but this is different.
This is critical. Prompt engineering is how you talk to ChatGPT. Context engineering is giving the AI the factory's rulebook. It needs to know the standard operating procedures, the SOPs. It needs to see the engineering diagrams.
So it's not just seeing a temperature spike and saying, that's high. It knows that's high, but we're in the sterilization phase, so that's actually correct.
Precisely. Without context, AI hallucinates. And a hallucination in a GXP environment is a catastrophe. It needs to know the physics and the rules of the plant.
Which ties right back to compliance and this term ALCOA.
ALCOA. It stands for attributable, legible, contemporaneous, original, and accurate. It's the gold standard for data integrity. If your AI makes a decision and you can't explain why based on these principles, you can't use it. It's that simple.
So we've got the tech, the data, but what about the people? The immediate fear with AI is always the robots are coming for our jobs.
It's a valid fear, but the report suggests a really different reality. The goal isn't a factory with no lights and no people. It's the augmented engineer.
I love that term. What does that actually look like on the floor?
It means the AI does the heavy lifting, the data crunching, the pattern recognition. That frees up the human to do what humans do best.
Mm.
Judgment, creative problem solving, handling the weird stuff.
So the person isn't replaced, they're elevated.
They're supercharged. But this means a total shift in training. The old way, sitting in a classroom for 2 days looking at slides, that's dead.
Their report calls for continuous enablement.
Right. Imagine an operator standing at a machine with a tablet. The AI knows exactly where they are and pulls up step-by-step guidance for that exact task at that exact moment.
A GPS for the factory floor. Turn this valve now.
Exactly. It reduces errors. And there's another huge benefit here, knowledge preservation.
Ah, the tribal knowledge problem.
You've got operators who've been there 30 years. They're machine whisperers. They can tell a fermentation tank is off just by the sound it makes.
And when they retire, all that knowledge just walks out the door.
Usually, yes. But with this, the AI can learn those patterns. It can learn that sound, that vibration, and encode it. So the new hire on day one has access to 30 years of experience.
That's incredible. So, okay, we've covered the why, the what, and the who. Let's get to the how. If I'm a COO and I want to escape purgatory, what do I do Monday morning? The report lays out a 24-month roadmap.
It's a very disciplined plan. And notice how it starts. Phase 1, the first 6 months.
Yeah.
The first thing you do is stop.
Stop.
Don't start more pilots. Stop. Fix the foundation. Assess the mess. Fix the data architecture first. You get to resist the urge to do the cool stuff right away.
So 6 months of cleaning house. Then what?
Phase 2, months 6 to 12. This is pilot excellence. But you don't let 1,000 flowers bloom. You pick 2 or 3 high ROI cases, not 50, 2 or 3. And you embed that GXP validation from day 1.
Laser focus, and then phase 3.
Months 12 to 24. Now you scale. You roll out those winners to multiple sites. You build centers of excellence. But the most important rule for the COO through this entire process is what they call the kill rule.
Be ruthless.
Absolutely. If a pilot doesn't show a clear path to scale, if it's just a cool science project, you have to kill it. Focus your resources on the winners.
That's tough. People get attached to their pet projects.
They do. But you have to treat AI like a KPI-driven engine, not innovation theater.
Innovation theater. We see that all the time. Companies doing AI just so they can put it in the annual report.
Exactly. Real success comes when executive bonuses are actually tied to AI adoption and value. When the plant manager's bonus depends on using the AI scheduler, guess what happens?
The AI scheduler gets used.
Money talks.
Always.
So let's bring this all together. We've gone from this depressing stat of 85% failure all the way to this vision of an augmented engineer in a digital factory. It really feels like the industry is at a crossroads.
It's a binary choice. That's the final takeaway for me. You have 2 options. Option A, you do the hard, unsexy work, you fix the data, you enforce the validation, you train your people, and you escape purgatory.
And option B.
Option B is you just keep doing what you're doing. You run interesting experiments, you burn cash, and you watch your competitors double their production volume and basically put you out of business.
It's adapt or die.
It really is. The technology is here, the roadmap is clear, the only variable left is leadership courage. That is a powerful place to leave it. So here's the question for you listening. Is your organization treating AI as a science project, something cool to show off at a conference? Or are you treating it as the new engine of your business performance?
And if you don't know the answer to that, you might already be in purgatory.
Thanks for diving in with us.
My pleasure.